I think data is a way to straighten communication lines between the producer, the consumer, and all the different organizations within that value chain. And in my personal belief, I think that really AI will be a different way of talking and thinking about data.
Hi everybody, welcome to the Devico Breakfast Bar. Here we speak with different people involved in the business landscape, share their expertise, delve into the latest tech trends, and explore the ins and outs of IT outsourcing. I'm Oleg Sadikov, and today I'm excited to have Katherine Zambaldi, CEO at FarmTrace. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss new episodes. Hi Katherine. Let's start our podcast with a little blitz. I start a sentence and you continue. My position as CEO gave me
a lot of challenges and joy.
My position as CEO deprived me
of some of my free time.
My main superpower is
multitasking.
My main weakness is
trying to do everything myself.
When I'm afraid
that despite making the right decisions, things can still go wrong.
Thanks. Katherine, your career path spans businesses, analysis, product manager, management, and now CEO role at FarmTrace. Can you walk us through that journey and what fueled each transition?
Indeed, I spent most of my career in software product and kind of as a product person. So after I graduated, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do. I wanted to get some hands-on experience. And so I kind of fell into IT, as I like to say. I did a graduate program where basically the company would place me for their customers as a consultant. So I kind of started working as a business analyst. And my first proper job was for the UK government, working on a European project. And I loved it. I fell in love with working with people and being that bridge between the technical side and the business side, and really telling the full story from idea to reality to then the outcomes that a technical change or a software change can bring. So from there, I continued my career in consultancy. I spent most of my career in the and so there I worked for Barclays, I worked for an insurance company called Covea, and all sorts of different projects I was involved in, each one very different from the next. And that's where I really fell in love with the idea of being able to be involved in loads of different initiatives and to be able to contribute in different ways in an organization that wasn't restricted to strict boundaries of a role. So that's why I really enjoyed working as a consultant. And as my career grew, I also moved to the Netherlands as I am a French citizen. And with Brexit, me and my partner felt that we also wanted to be a bit closer to family over in Europe. And so I moved, and there I kind of moved more into internal roles, so less in consultancy, a lot more in proper permanent strategic work, because at that point I really wanted to see what I could do without the safety net of a consultancy behind me and really contribute to an organization. So in terms of my journey, specifically at FarmTrace, I was hired in 2023 to launch a brand new state-of-the-art platform. So I started as a product manager to make sure that we would launch a first iteration of the platform that met the needs of our customers at the time. And after that, my role grew from building something to then selling that something and starting to be more involved in business development, customer conversations. And earlier this year, I got the privilege of taking over the leadership of the company as CEO. So if you had told me 2 years ago that this would be my journey, I probably would not have believed you. But I'm very lucky that I have a very supportive team, a very supportive board, and I very much believe that the value that our data platform offers will be contributing positively to the livestock and dairy industry.
You have worked across both the private and public sectors. What lessons have you carried from those experiences into your current leadership at FarmTrace?
So I think being involved in a lot of different environments definitely helped me give some context and perspective. So it gave me the skill to land in an organization and already have an understanding of what might have happened in the past that creates the situation today. I think it's an interesting question between public and private, because I feel like in public sector, you have more time. Things like deadlines feel a lot less rushed in a way, specifically for kind of internal projects. And in my experience, I was kind of unlucky because I was involved in a project that was a European Union project that stopped when the Brexit referendum outcome came out. So in my experience, we spent a lot of time and money on a change that, in my opinion, should have still ideally gone through, because at the time it was basically when you want, for example, to apply for your pension and you've worked in a different country, the country you're in will ask, hey, did this person work in your country before? Can you exchange some information? At the time, that was all done through forms that you would print and send. And so the project was to make this into an electronic exchange of information. So I thought that was a great idea. I thought we should have done it anyway. I hope that they didn't throw everything away. But in my experience, there is that kind of thing can happen where fundings get cut, or suddenly the people in charge have changed, and then suddenly the projects that you're working on kind of fell apart. That can happen in the private sector, but I feel like in the private sector, you have a business case. And as long as that business case makes sense and you've done your homework, the likelihood of things getting dropped is a bit lower, assuming you've done your homework at that point.
What pain points in the market were you most eager to solve when you stepped in as the CEO position?
So for me, I really believe in transparency across the value chain. I recognize, especially when I started at FarmTrace, I've never worked in farming or livestock industry. So I was exposed to so many people who just wanted to tell me everything about their farm, very open, very friendly. And they just really wanted to explain to me everything that they're dealing with day to day, because you don't see it as a consumer when you buy a bottle of milk or some cheese. You really don't see the blood, sweat, and tears that go behind it. And so, especially today, with the pressure from government on the sustainability question is, of course, huge. Climate change measures that we need to take as a globally, to be honest. So all of that led me to really have this vision for FarmTrace as a positive contributor from a data point of view. So I believe that data is the way to move forward, especially automated connections, because we should, as an industry, but also between the farmer and the consumer, we need to stop assuming, and we need to stop asking so much of the farmer all the time. There's a lot of reporting and administration that goes into running the farm. So for us, it's really what can we do to create this transparency, because the consumer wants to know. We want to know what the environmental impact is of livestock production. But at the same time, should the farmer really have to fill in loads of questionnaires manually? And they're already working with software, they're already working with milking robots. So why not just take the information straight from there instead of, again, asking them the time and effort to put that in? And so opening this use case a little wider, I think data is a way to straighten communication lines between the producer, the consumer, and all the different organizations within that value chain. So have an open conversation. And I think that will really lead to having the right conversations with those different parties so that we can adjust and improve the production processes, but also the footprint in a way that makes sense for the farmer as well. I think there needs to be a lot of communication and transparency between those different parties, as right now we can still see that the pressure goes on to the farmer, onto the producer very often, but there's not a big chance for the farmer to say, look, this is actually my situation on the ground. I have animals, I have, this much money to spend. And if you keep asking me to do a lot of things differently, then at some point it becomes very difficult to run the farm. And that means that makes it difficult to feed people at the end of the day, because the world population is increasing, despite the fact that in Europe, the number of farms is actually going down.
What does your typical day as CEO look like? How do you balance your time between strategy, team management, and staying connected to customer needs?
So I do my best to structure it. I think since in a startup specifically, there's sometimes I have my ideal day that I start in the morning and then something happens. And so I have to jump onto that. So there is a little bit of unexpected things that might happen. So that requires me to be quite strict with myself in a way to make sure that the important stuff stays prioritized and that I don't end up spending too much time on the small operational tasks. So I think overall, my first priority in my day is to make sure we answer people who have questions, who reach out to me. So the kind of business development, customer relationship side is a big priority of mine. So to make sure communication lines stay open. I think for the operational part, I'm very lucky that I have a great team behind me. My head of engineering is brilliant. Support team is super great. So they've all been very helpful in making sure that they also surface to me the important stuff and take care of any of the smaller decisions that they don't really need me to make. I trust my team to make the decisions that they need without necessarily having to come to me all the time. So that makes it a lot more helpful. So overall, my perfect day, I would say, is one where I manage to do everything I set off to do in the morning. But I think the part that I do enjoy is that sometimes it's unpredictable and it also keeps it fun and keeps it on my toes.
The agricultural sector can be sometimes resistant to digital transformation. How do you approach driving adoption of technology in more traditional farming environments?
So there is indeed that dichotomy in the industry, I find, where on one hand, it is perceived as a more traditional industry, but it's important to remember that from the farmer to the feed advisor, the veterinarian, there are a lot of very pragmatic people. So the farmer is not going to say, oh, I'm not going to look at it because it's technology. They will want you to show them what benefit you are bringing. So why should I bother to work with you? So if you have that story clear, most of the time the door opens because you have a good business case behind it and you can articulate why approaching the farmer and what you're trying to achieve and how exactly that should benefit them. But that benefit part needs to be very concrete. So from that point of view, I find, especially in our case, because we don't take money from the farmer, we really work with the advisors, with the companies that work with the farmer, because what we're trying to do is help them provide better services to the farmer. Because if you have the rep who's asking you for an export or a PDF or this and that, chasing you for data before they can give you the right advice for how to feed your animals, for example, you're not really getting a lot out of that relationship than if the rep came in, was prepared, already had access to the key metrics from your farm. They already know what looks wrong and they can come to your farm saying, yes, I have a plan for you. You can see the facts, you can see the effectiveness. So it's really about talking about proof points, showing real data and being consistent. So, and from there, I find that actually it's quite a modern industry. The livestock industry has huge amounts of automation, of efficiencies. I find it very interesting in a way that we do have this challenge that who is going to be the farmer of tomorrow? And technology is a huge answer to that. Because especially if you're thinking about the dairy farmer, it's not a job, it's a lifestyle. And traditionally, you need to milk your cows 2-3 times a day, depending on your farm. And well, somebody's got to do it. And if you're not there to do it, well, who will take care of the animals? So it's a lifestyle where you can't necessarily spend time with your family as much, or go on holiday, or go to the cinema in the evening. So what we're trying to do, and that is us from a data perspective, but also all of those providers like Lely, De Laval, GIA, who are working on farm automation, is to help the farmer run the farm without necessarily having to be there all the time. And data is huge there because you can monitor what's happening on the farm. There's cameras, sensors, robots, everything you can think of these days. And the idea there is to help the farmer manage the farm from a little bit of that step back, to allow them the room to also breathe and be human and not be only running the farm, because it's difficult to tell the new generations this is what you have to do. So that's where technology is recognized as a huge need to secure the food supply for the future as well.
What potential do you see for AI to transform traditional farming practices, especially in animal welfare and sustainability?
So there are loads of applications for AI that we're seeing. So I would say one of the most simple, well, nothing is simple, but one that we're seeing being quite popular is the use of AI through image recognition with cameras. So multiple companies are doing that. Everag is one that has some nice products on the market in the US there. And so it's the idea of you have these cameras in the farm and they will monitor, they will recognize the animals. So it's also identifying the animals can be tricky. So you need some intelligence behind it to make sure that you have the data linked to the right animals. So that's one use case we're seeing. And in my personal belief, I think that really AI will be a different way of talking and thinking about data, because inherently no one really loves to have to look at a dashboard or a report all the time, right? And I know there's a lot of people who are passionate about making it beautiful. I love a nice graph. I like looking at it. But day to day, really, I think something that's very human is just tell me what I need to know, really. Because the AI, if you do the connection in the right way, you have all of this clean data. So that's also what we do with FarmTrace, is we offer a way to run machine learning and AI through our Databricks-based data sharing solution, and that you can integrate with a bunch of off-the-shelf tools or Salesforce, Tableau, etc. And so for that, you need clean data. And so AI will really come in on top of that data to step away from the graphs and move towards a situation where it can anticipate when your advisor is going to visit the farm. It can look at the production values of that farm. It can look at the purchase history of that farmer and say, look, I think you can help the farmer be more efficient if you do it like this. Here is an opportunity I see. So different ways, and ultimately helping the farmer just ask a question about their data and get an understandable answer, rather than having to dig it through graphs and numbers, which is not the most easy thing to do, especially if you're not super used to software and new technology. So it's really trying to simplify the access to data and making it easy as much as possible. So I think there's a huge opportunity for AI in that space. And beyond that, things like predictions, future trends, potential issues. We're very interested at the moment in the links between weather and production. So things like, hey, you got a heat wave coming. You might want to prepare your animals. You might want to make sure that maybe you give them something to boost the immune system a little bit, or you want to feed them in a different way so that they're resilient and go through that heat wave with minimal damage. So lots we can do, but overall, I think for AI, it's very important to really have that use case clear, validate it, and make sure that it is doing the job you want it to do. Because the other side of the piece is if you push AI to the farmer for the sake of it, they're not going to be interested. It's not about the technology, it's about what it does for you.
Being based in Netherlands, do you notice any unique challenges or opportunities in the tech industry in your region compared to other parts of the world?
Yes, actually, it's an interesting one. I often say we're a bit spoiled in the Netherlands because the Netherlands are very much a leading country, first of all, from a knowledge perspective. So the ways of working, the ways of managing livestock, looking at the production, the feed, the Netherlands have a huge amount of knowledge and expertise there. Wageningen University is a huge name in the industry. It is widely recognized. And it's because there is a lot of research, a lot of very smart, passionate people working hard to understand and refine how we do farming and agriculture. So from that point of view, the rates, so the number of farmers who have a milking robot, who have some sort of animal management system is much higher. The majority of farmers will have some sort of automation. And that is also a sign of a relatively wealthy country because those robots are not cheap. So the Netherlands and the farmers in the Netherlands have made that investment to automate, to bring the industry into a digital age. And then when you step into other countries, you can't necessarily assume that everyone is going to have a robot or a system that you can connect to. So an interesting statistic I like to say is if you look across the world, the average herd size is maybe like 3 animals per herd, which is nothing because you have so many people in other countries that maybe have 1 or 2 animals. And that's enough to feed the family and make a little bit of a living. So the levels of automation in that case are completely different. And the way you're looking at production is completely different. On the other side, also in the Netherlands, the herd sizes are also manageable. So for example, you can afford to look at the animals individually. So there is a lot of precision farming practices are promoted in the Netherlands. The farmers are quite connected. They expect you to bring them data when you trying to have a conversation because they expect you to know what you're talking about. Other countries, you might not have as much of a good data connection. They might not have the level of automation. So it's really about understanding the situation on the ground. As an integrator, we are lucky enough that for us, a robot is a robot. So it doesn't matter if it's in the Netherlands or if it's in South America, data is the same, systems the same, so we're okay. But then you run into challenges on connection and so on.
What's your philosophy on IT outsourcing, particularly when it comes to maintaining quality and company culture?
So that's an interesting one because in my experience, the consultants I've worked with tend to integrate quite well into the culture and the team. So it's also, I think, part of our hiring process is if we're looking for a consultant, we really want them to be part of the company, join us at every step and not have them on the side too much. Obviously, it depends at that point on the kind of consultant, because we do have some outsourcing that we do. If it's for smaller number of hours and it's more efficient, we are a startup, so we need to be very conscious of our burn and how much money we're spending every month. So from that point of view, we tend to really look at it from a need basis first. So what exactly do we want to achieve and what do we need to get there? And that tends to lead the conversation towards a consultant makes more sense because we need something that's for a shorter period of time, or we need some flexibility, or actually this is really a work stream that we are investing in, is strategic, and so we want to hire someone permanently. But when it comes to how do we integrate the consultant, to be honest, it's really making sure that they're part of the team, doing some work during the onboarding. But after that, I think most of we're a small company, so it's not like you get isolated that much. There's there's only so many of us, so it's normally easy to reach out. And the key part really is keeping the communication lines open so everyone knows if they need anything, who to talk to, and kind of building up that contact. But it's not necessarily super easy when people are remote. So it's really a balance in finding also what works for each individual.
What advice would you give to smaller companies, startups, considering outsourcing for the first time?
Make sure you know what you want. Especially, I think consulting and outsourcing is a great way if you need expertise that can be hard to find. And so especially for smaller companies that might think, oh, if I get a consultant, it's going to cost me a lot of money. Should I do it? Should I not? I think it's really build the business case around it, because it can save you a lot of time in the long run if you get the right people early and you give them the ability to tell you, this is what best practice looks like. To me, I think outsourcing, and specifically, I think the most senior type of outsourcing that we mostly tend to work with on our side. So we don't normally outsource for junior and more for really high level senior expertise. For those cases, I think the best thing to do is really bring the right people in, but also give them the right assignment, make sure you know what the outcomes are, and let that person do their job. So in my experience also as a consultant, sometimes they bring you in and then they're kind of paying for you not to do much, or they're not ready.
Katherine, thanks for your time. I have recorded 150 podcasts so far, and it's my first time when I had someone from farm and agriculture tech. So it was a pleasure meeting you. Your interesting views and advices would help similar entrepreneurs, CEOs, I'm sure, and will be valuable to my auditor. Thanks for joining me today. If you enjoy our discussion and want to stay updated on future episodes, don't forget to subscribe and hit notification bell. That way you will not miss out on the latest insights and conversations from the Devico Breakfast Bar. See you in a week.